All right, we've got a little walkthrough for some gearing gameplay here on whatever Northern Waters here against Shady, and this is just showing some of the thought processes, the speed, the skills, the different things that I'm using that may or may not work for you, but just give you a kind of a general overview. So anytime that the game starts, me as a DD, I'm looking at the two DDs that I'm going to have to fight, because that's going to be my first contestant. That's going to be the first thing that I'm going to have to engage is the enemy destroyer. I have to keep them away from everyone else, if at all possible. Now, radar does that a lot, but it's the DD that's going to find them first. The DD is usually going to see the other DD at some point. Obviously, my next concern is going to be any radar. Salem having the shorter radar is not as big a threat unless you're under the radar, and then his rate of fire is the big problem. Moscow has the longer duration and range, but he has a slower reload, so you get a little more wiggle room there. Napoli with the secondaries is dangerous. Marseille, if he's got the reload booster. Colombo with the sap shell. So all these are particularly dangerous. The only one I'm not as concerned with in the straight up gunfight would be Shimakaze, just because most of the time they don't gunfight you. So the game starts here, and I am of course going to immediately speed boost. Let's see if I can adjust my screen just a little bit here. Apparently not. I'm not sure why it's cutting it off, but okay. Apologies there, technical difficulties. So we are approaching the cap. So the very first thing is I'm going to hit the speed boost in order to get there quicker. Then I'm going to use my little white line here coming off the front of the boat to pick my angle that I'm going to attack this cap at. So if I want to touch the cap, then I'm going to come along on a point just to touch it. One of the other things is if you have a psychopath or this a very heavy push here, depending on how closely you clear this island is going to denote what kind of gunfight you're going to have. If you're concerned about getting spotted, then you would play off the cap a little bit so that your detection zone is middle of that area. If you're not as worried about it, you're fairly certain no one's going to be aggressive, then you can play on closer to it. So I was sending Petro to this corner, Des Moines out here to cover me. So what I wanted to do was, on the way here, I decided that I was going to smoke this corner, because as you can look here, there's this very nice slope right here that you can shoot over. But there's enough terrain here to block you line of sight wise pretty much due north of the location. So an enemy has to push way out here or have high arcing fire like Worcester or something with like 5 or 6 inch guns, low velocity. So deploying smoke would allow him to fire to an extent, probably almost out to here, without being spotted by a DD or something like that. And it would give him screen against some torpedoes and stuff like that. So I made this decision that I was going to push up here and smoke this location. Rum's calling out some locations on the other flank. So my torpedoes are loaded at this point. So I close very closely with the island, and the reason for that is, as you watch the smoke rings deploy, not only do they cover this zone, but they cover further out. So if he noses straight into here, there's no way that he's going to poke just enough of his boat out to get spotted in the smoke. Now, when you smoke a cap, it's going to do two things. Number one, it's going to attract a radar, usually, if they have the range. 2, it will almost always attract torpedoes if you are also RPF'd. So if you are parked in smoke, expect torpedoes to come across the line of smoke. So when you deploy your smoke line, don't turn right back into it because you'll probably run into some torpedoes. As a cruiser, be leery and probably have hydro running as you move through smoke, especially if your DD is not actually spotting on the far end. They're deploying smoke and then turning out. So my torpedoes are loaded. RPF is pointing, this is not a very good backdrop for the map, is pointing here just to the north of me. So I know it's a pretty damn good chance, since I can't see it, a cruiser, there's a destroyer cutting right across here matching me, moving to the outside. There's almost always a radar or a cruiser right here, just because we're putting one there, and somebody's moving out here to this line. Someone's going to move out here, and people are going to fight through this gap, because that's how you have to contest this gap. My torpedo range is 16.5 kilometers, so I'm going to send them. Every time they're loaded, I'm going to throw them in a general direction, unless I have a specific target I'm trying to work down. Why? Because fuck it. Throw them down this lane and let them worry about these torpedoes. They don't know when they're going to appear. Is there hydro going? Is there hydro not going? They're going to deploy their hydro when they see the torps come by, because that's the natural indication. Oh shit, there's torps in the area, which means they either may not have a hydro later, or it'll be on cooldown while I'm throwing more torps at them. So I always throw torps down lanes, because you never know. You may kill somebody. So I throw the first one at the corner of the island in case I get some psycho trying to bum rush the corner. This is going to do two things. Number one, it's not going to allow them to turn out broadside to deliver a lot of gunfire or move out to this flank. They'll have to slow down, which is going to kind of stutter their attack. Two, if they dodge all of it, they have to nose in, which robs them of their guns. They only get to shoot their front guns, which buys Des Moines time to get to the outside, which buys Petro a fairer fight to have the gunfight. The RPF is moving obviously out here, so I throw wide angle this direction. Throw a rack here, throw a wide angle rack out here. You never know. Might get lucky. And I'm going to continue my same pattern, across here, in case Petro needs to do his turn and turn outbound or something like that. And speak of the devil, there's Napoli, there's Colombo. But my RPF is still out here, which tells me that the DD is still moving to the outside. And so that's where I ping. And then it moves to here. So he's moving to the outside to match what I'm doing. Now he knows roughly where I am because I'm throwing smoke. So he's going to throw smoke. He's going to throw torpedoes across here, especially after seeing the Petro. There's the Shimakaze. So now, again, my point is, what do I do about this guy? Well, he's on his side of the island and I'm on my side of the island. I have a Salem. I have a Petro, Des Moines. I've got good radar coverage here. All I have to do is just try to help prevent these guys from getting across here. And this Shimakaze cannot come around this island without me vaporizing him or being radared. So at this point, all I need to do is ball up these two guys in the corner of this island. Now they could push across and they'll take gunfire from Petro. They stay there, they're going to take fire from me. Now, the cool thing and the reason on running RPF is that this guy cannot get away from me. I know where he is. Unless he runs due north, I know exactly where this guy is the entire match. And I know if he's thinking about pushing around the corner, which is why I later call for our radar rather, from Bradley. So, current threat to me, Shimakaze, because he can spot me. There's an island. He can't spot me anymore. My concern now is that the Petro gets torped to death while I'm trying to torp these guys to death. So, torps are going out. Salem doesn't have hydro. I always forget. I think Napoli's got hydro. But they don't see those torpedoes. Well, the mod's not working on this replay, but they should already seen the torpedoes. So if they were planning to push the corner, they're not going to drive into the torpedoes to do it. So they're going to stop. And now what I'm going to do is start Operation Farm Salem. So I'm waiting on the reload to happen. I want to shoot them, but I cannot out DPM Salem straight up. So I'm not going to. The other thing too is that both my radar, my smoke, and my speed booster down. So I'm watching this guy. He's at 8.9. My alert tells me 8.5. So I want to make sure he doesn't suddenly close that gap because he has probably pretty good acceleration. Now, be very cognizant of how I launch these torps. Now, you can follow the white line. The white line is going to center. So as you can see, this line goes straight out there. But there's another boat here too. And so you usually get a torp that goes along this line, a torp that comes to the inside, a torp that goes along the line. If you have 5, if it's quintuple launches, there's 5 torps. If it's 4, it spreads them more or less equally. I don't know what the RNG is on them staying in the dill, but they stay more or less within this dill. And you usually get kind of 1 to the outside, 1 to the outside, and 2 to 3 in the middle, depending on how many torps you have. I think these are quintuples. There should be 5. So watch me line this up. The first one kind of jumped a little bit. If we roll it back just so that first rack right there. So as the line stopped just here. And the reason why I do that is because then that means the rest of the spread is all out here in open water. So that's going to put the most torps possible in open water between the Salem and the Napoli. And this is going to do a couple of things. 1, they're going to take a torp. Fantastic. 2, they're not going to push. Also fantastic. 3, they're going to have to turn those on to me, which is going to rob them, either give them angles towards these 2 guys, or rob them of gun angles because they have to back up. So whatever they do, it's exactly what I want them to do. So long as they're not pushing around this corner attacking the Petro, that's perfect. So then, as you watch me, I incrementally work to the outside and launch another rack. Again, the focus is the Salem, so I want some torps to go at him. But if one sneaky slips over here and slaps this Napoli, or if he suddenly turns his butt around here to shoot back down to Petro, these are all good things. Now, currently, RPF is pointing at these 2 guys, which tell me that the Shimakaze is up here doing something, probably throwing torps down here at Petro, who's backed off the corner. So these guys can't shoot Bradley, they can't shoot him, and I can see them. And they can't do anything about me, because if they push across, they take gunfire from these 2 guys. If they push down, they take gunfire from both of us. And the Shimakaze is not close to me. So I'm going to sit here and continue to farm. I have to make sure that I'm paying attention to how close this guy is to me. Because if he closes to 8.5, that's going to be a bad time. But I'm so close to the dill, I'm already preset so I can make my turn and haul ass away from him. And if he chases me, guess what? He comes right across the front of Petro's nose and gets shot in the ass. Broadside. So we throw these torps at him. We're focused on the Salem. We're wanting to kind of keep tabs on how he's moving. What is he doing? What's his plans? And by watching the boat, you can see his guns are kind of tracking. Now, one of the things that you'll see if you're watching me play or anything else, you could be staring at the mini-map. But when you start to get into the closer, more dangerous fights, a lot of things can be happening. When you're detected, a lot of times it's not the boat that you're staring at that is doing the shooting that does the damage to you. It's the one you don't see. It's the one you can't look at while you're dodging another one. Colombo, in another game, ended up eating me alive. He beat me up bad because I was backing too far around an island. This is still a concern. Random torps coming by. There can be visual things that happen too, like planes being launched from somewhere. There's all sorts of stuff that you can pick up. And so when I'm zooming out like this, essentially I'm taking mental pictures. Who is where? What are they doing? Where are they going? How's it working? And then you're back into the gun sight focused on the target. And so the deal is that this draws you out of that tunnel vision. And you kind of go, whoop, what's going on? Everything's good? Cool. And you're back in the scope looking at the target. And you come out and you go, hey, it's like you're picking your head up. And you go, hey, what's going on around me? And then you're back in the gun sight. And so this breaks this tunnel vision that can happen. Now, if we notice, RPF is back. Well, you could get confused and say this is Colombo. But if you notice, he's slightly off center from that, which can happen as he transitions from one sector as RPF updates. But the odds are that that's Shimakaze playing here. And so you have to be careful as you go to back, going forward and backwards. And this is where you want to be ready to disengage, especially say you shoot or Shimakaze decides to bum rush the island. You've got to now play Ring Around the Rosie with him. So you just have to be careful of that stuff. And so now I'm checking Bert's health, because Bert's is really the anchor here. He's the reason why this shit's working, because they can't push across here with Bert sitting there. Bradley's here, but he's kind of limited. He can't push out and really tangle with these guys. And neither the Salem nor the Napoli want to push out into those petro guns. And now Ohio's showing up to the party. Moscow's way out of position. And Colombo's firing nose on. So, I mean, he's got sap and he can do some damage. But Russian versus Italian sap, it's kind of a toss-up. Especially once he gets saturated. And so now we have ultimately the greatest DD position ever, where you just get to sit here and watch torpedoes slip to targets. But as we see, look at this little guy right over here. What's he doing? He's out here fucking around. So Salem's taking chunk damage. He's taking floods. I think I missed with this. Okay, I missed with this one, but I hit with another. But the other deal, too, is that Colombo's still well within range, and so is Moscow. If these guys go to cut across here, they're still well within my range. And the deal is, by the time they make it out here, like 12, 15K, nobody's thinking about torpedoes, and then they suddenly appear, especially if nobody spots them. So the whole time, in the back of their mind, they're worried about torpedoes. They have to worry about these guys, but they also have to be worried about torpedoes. So these are psychological warfare. And then I don't have the best reload for torpedoes. I think mine's a split between guns. So now, notice RPF again. And it tells me he's over here. So now I have to keep my eyes peeled, make sure he doesn't push the corner on me and get me spotted. Because if these two dudes are waiting for him to spot me, I'm going to take a lot of damage if he decides to suicide me in order to get me off the field. Because I have to go. Because I'm keeping vision. So both these guys can back up out of the way and maintain line of sight. So they can decide when and where they're going to attack. And they can't do anything about me because they can't push across this area, because y'all are stacked here. So Shimakaze really, about the only option he would have, really Moscow should have came down here, radared me, and then between him and the Shimakaze pushed me off the cap zone, because I couldn't have had line of sight here. He would have gotten spotted on the way down, but he would have broke it against Petro as on the way outside here. So again, that's about the only option that they had, but they didn't take it. So now my concern, and this is what I'm calling to Bradley, is that they've finally woken up and they say, hey, we've got to get this freaking DD off the backside of this island or we're not going to make it. And they called the Shimakaze to come down and to like throw torps at Des Moines or maybe try to see me or something. They told him to do something. And I noticed RPF moving this way. So I called, I think also at that point I hit the Alt key, and the Alt key with Tataro's map mod will tell me it'll show me what the range of the radar from Bradley is. I think I might have called for a radar, or he started to and then he didn't. So as you can see that it bounced back here. Well, it ain't Moscow, it's the Shimakaze. And he's just on the backside of the island doing the same thing I'm doing, but not very well, because his reload is longer too. So now I see the signal is low. I'm concerned. I don't want him to get a heal in. But I'm outside of his radar range, and the Moscow doesn't have radar range. Shimakaze's detected again. And he starts to move to the inside. And so now I'm in smoke. Napoli spotted. I'm going to farm damage. But I'm watching the RPF. I've got 2 racks of torps on there. And this is an opportunity where I'm going to farm. Again, zooming out, getting a mental picture of what's going on around you, back into the scope. But now watch the RPF on the minimap. You start to notice, starting to move to the outside. Now what you don't want to have happen is this Shimakaze bounces out here. He's not able to see the Bradley, and he comes in here and he torps me in the smoke on the corner. So I pushed out of my smoke so that I could see if he was going to push the corner on me. So I had just kind of skidded out of the smoke and went to stop. Well, now he's cleared this island. There's only one thing on his mind, and that's throwing torpedoes. So now he just shot them at where I am at right now because I stopped. So I'm going to accelerate. And I'm going to keep this angle to try to keep at least my front two guns. So at this point, I see the torpedoes. I see where they're at. I see my acceleration. No factor. I'm going to continue. I'm going to double check again. They're clear. They're moving behind me. I'm going to continue. Now, I'm waiting on the next set of torps. There should be a second rack. Now, I didn't see another set of racks, but look how he's setting up. He's getting ready to throw another rack of torps. And about there, he probably got them off. And there they were. Now he's going to skid along the line. So now the point is now I called Bradley to move up to this point because I wanted to make sure that he didn't smoke and try to get out of here. I want to keep my fight no further than this rock because I don't want to push out in an open water gunfight with these three guys. So I'm going to push this guy away and put as much pressure, if not kill him, and allow Bradley to now take my spot. And if I kill this guy and I'm clear, then I can push across here and attack these guys. If I'm not, then Bradley's in a good position where he can hydro radar this guy and he can take over my position. But now my job is to kill this Shimakaze. Leave Bradley to do his job in the corner. He'll shoot him, and he does hit him there good chunks. And everyone else does too. But I consider it my sole mission to eliminate this guy no matter what. And as you see, I didn't make it much further. And so I'm already making my turn as the final rounds are going into that guy. But the cool thing is, the Napoli is in smoke, so he can't see. This guy dies. There's no one in my gun range, so no one can see me. So now the question is, attack these guys or attack the cap? Well, in the grand scheme of things, get the cap. Get the cap zones. They're getting points all the time. If you go down and you don't have the caps, it's no points. Now, obviously on the other side, they're doing very well. They've eliminated 2 boats. They're coming back and dealing with the Summers. And we have turned this into an attack here. So again, like I talked about before, that dumping speed and increasing speed, it will help you to turn. So now Napoli's out of his smoke. He's redetected. So when you go as a destroyer guy to move back across, always, for the most part, always choose to move in front of your cruisers. That way it's like Bradley sitting in some smoke. So he doesn't actually have line of sight on anything. I think maybe Ohio did. So I'm going to move in front of him and in front of the smoke in order to spot for him. The other thing is that I may see some torpedoes a few seconds before he does. Obviously, Napoli doesn't have the longest range torpedoes. So now we're set up in almost the same exact position again, but now we have a cruiser parked behind us. I alert him to my smoke because I've got my smoke alert up here. He also can see it, but I'm just letting him know. So now we have Colombo and Napoli. I'm going to get on the camp zone. I'm going to hold my gunfire. And again, we're just throwing a wall of torps over there in that area to keep them either backing up, nose on, maybe get a torp hit. It's just psychological warfare. We're causing a lot of problems. They got to try to deal with that too. The Colombo has no hydro. He's not going to want to push into me. There's all these boats. The Napoli doesn't want to push into me. And that's just causing more problems. It's just dividing his attention. So now, again, we're very close to our detectability. 7.2 and 7. It's only a couple kilometers in. Napoli makes a nosedive inwards, which is not exactly what I wanted, but that's okay. We've got a smoke on standby, 35 seconds on the reload. I assumed again he might turn out. As he closes to about 6K, I go, okay, and I'm looking, and I go, okay, Petro's got line of sight, Des Moines has line of sight, so I can smoke safely and begin my engagement. Now he does have hydro, so I want to try to move away from him, or start to, but he's getting eaten up so bad that the odds are it won't be a problem. So at this point, if you see these wild evasive maneuvers, they're not even evasive. He's getting torps off. That's what he's doing. He's throwing torps down here. So I call for that. I don't know if he actually even did throw torps, but that's what I would have guessed he was doing. And here, I'm going to launch a narrow set and a wide set when the game ends. The thought process being, I should get a hit. And again, getting a torpedo hit, getting a flood, he either has to absorb that damage, he's got to pop a heal to absorb the damage, he's got to actually DCP it, he has to do something with it, or not. Either I'm going to get free damage, or I'm going to get utility off of him by making him pop a heal or a DCP. I'm winning either way. I'm drawing utility away from him. I'm drawing hit points away from him. I'm making him pay for what he's doing right now. And that is one of the sole goals of the entire game. Make the enemy pay for each and every move that they make. Every time they do something, they should have to pay for it. Every time they go to accomplish a task, they should have to pay for it. You will also have to pay something. And what you try to do is make sure the bad guys are paying more than you do in hit points, in positioning, in utility, whatever that is. And you try to save as much of your utility, your health, all that jazz until the end of the match. Again, like Rum says, if you're dead, you can't help anybody. So, but as DD, this match ended up going very well. These were obviously, I don't know if inexperienced players or they weren't as skilled as some of the other ones that we run into. And they allowed me to sit there, which they really shouldn't have. The Des Moines should have been pushed, or the Moscow should have been pushed up far earlier to put pressure on me and shove me out of that position. And then together they should have been able to push. And instead they let two people push their other flank. And, or three people. Who was, yeah. 3 people push their other flank, kill their cruiser, run their destroyer down, and they didn't do a very good job, and we did a good job. In other matches, we didn't do as well, but this was a good showcase of thought process, setup, strategy, that kind of business.